You don't need to cancel your plans. This pet parent made a video of their dog drinking a bunch of water all at once when they arrived home from work, and drew the conclusion that the dog was really thirsty but had been waiting to drink because they knew that they couldn't go out to go potty until the parent got home, which has led to some pet parent guilt and also a lot of really wild comments in the comment section calling this pet parent a bad pet parent. So I just wanted to alleviate a bit of guilt and explain displacement behaviors. Displacement behaviors are behaviors that a dog will perform to displace the arousal that they're feeling. And that arousal, those slightly elevated stress hormones, could have any number of underlying emotions. It could be excitement, frustration, nervousness. But stress levels are a little up, stress hormones are a little up, and the dog needs to displace that arousal. And so they might do that in any number of ways. Really, any behavior that a dog can perform naturally can be a displacement behavior, but there are some common ones. Some are going to serve the dog well and help lower their stress levels, and some are actually going to serve to increase or sustain stress levels. You can tell a behavior is a displacement behavior by looking at the context and the body language and the behavior. So the way that the dog moves, the behavior they're engaging in within the context of what is happening. For example, we might go, that's kind of interesting that the response to someone coming home is to go drink a bunch of water. We can also see in the body language and the way the dog is moving that stress levels might be a little elevated. For example, the way that the dog is drinking rather quickly and then kind of quickly glancing back over at the human and then back at the water. And then it seems after the dog drinks water for a little bit, they come over, we see them shake off, which dogs will sometimes do when they're switching activities or when they're getting rid of some of the adrenaline in their body, if they have become a bit adrenalized. And then we see some jumping, which could be soliciting affection. It could also be another form of displacement. Drinking water can actually be a great way to lower stress levels. So can grabbing a toy and holding it in their mouth. Sniffing is another great one. So is licking. Sometimes they'll lick us or themselves or the furniture. Those are all examples of species typical behaviors that will lower the dog's stress levels. Displacement behaviors are important to pay attention to because that, along with some other data points like the dog's body language, their ability to process information efficiently, their digestive system, their fine motor skills, can tell us if the dog is a little more elevated than their baseline. And then we can look more closely and try to figure out what the underlying emotion is. Is the dog a bit nervous? Are they happy? We also want to see how able they are to come down on their own. So if I have a dog who is increasing a bit in stress levels, but then their only coping skill seems to be behaviors that get them more and more and more aroused and send them up that stress scale, that's something I would want to help them with. And then we also want to look at the resilience to stress. So when we come up a little bit on the stress scale, how long does it take to come back down? A dog who gets a little excited when their human comes home and is able to come back down largely on their own and is able to come back down relatively quickly is likely not something to worry about. Where I would start to get worried is if you were seeing physiological signs of stress, so like panting from an elevated heart rate, tension in the body, dilated pupils, excessive shedding or dander. That level of arousal, adrenalized muscles, difficulty holding still, kind of fidgety, fast movements, that might be more concerning because of the level of arousal. That could indicate to me a number of things, that the dog was distressed while the person was gone, or maybe they have trouble with people entering in through the front door. Maybe they're nervous about who's coming through the door. It could be any number of things, but it tells us that those stress levels are more concerning. Or the emotion might be what tells me that. So if I have that lower level of stress where my dog is still trying to cope with the stress and come back down versus higher on the scale where they're gearing up for a survival response, but my dog is nervous, or they're feeling a bit frustrated, or they're conflicted and it's not just some happiness, then I might want to look more closely at that as well and see where that's coming from so that I can support them.